Hey there guys, so this is probably the most exciting thing I'm going to find under a log until next spring, because I'll pick you guys up. As you can see around here, it's fall now, and that means all the herps are going to sleep. Most of them are brumating. Maybe I'll get some salamanders, but who wants to see a salamander? I know you guys don't like amphibians that much, but so now it's time to start the season of this new series. The new series, Tips and Tricks for Herping. So if you guys hang around, today we're talking all about snapping turtles and how to handle them and where to find them. So now that I'm inside, as you guys can see, and it's a little warmer, and I have my video buddy Dart here, let's start talking about the common snapping turtle, the Cylindra serpentina. So this video is going to be only about the common snapping turtle, not to be confused with the alligator snapping turtle, which is a more southern species and has completely different handling because they are not as flexible and they are a lot easier to handle. But the common snapping turtle is a lot harder to handle. They are a lot more flexible, and their necks can pretty much reach any part of their shell, and they can snag you from almost any angle. But let's first get into where you can find a common snapping turtle. They are, as the name says, pretty common. You'll often find them in ponds, streams, lakes. They are often in areas with very well oxygenated water and muddy bottoms. They like the going under the mud and going in there, and then in those environments they can easily hide from fish and attack unexpected fish. They are also often found in areas where people go fishing, and I've also been seeing instances of snapping turtles coming up and taking the worms right off people's hooks, which isn't so good for the turtle because, as I have a picture of here, sometimes the hook gets stuck in them, which is very sad. This turtle here that I'm showing, I did remove the hook from. I didn't get that on video, very sadly, but I did remove the hook from him, and here's a picture of him post-hook removal. So now let's get into talking about handling the common snapping turtle. Now, while these guys are very dangerous, because when you do have them, they are very defensive. They have very fast and powerful jaws. They can reach incredibly far. They can reach all the way up back on their shell and bite you incredibly quickly. And they often don't let go when they have a nip on you, unless, in the case of an adult, it will take your finger right off, then it'll let go a little quickly. But let's say you're a normal person and you do not want to lose any of your fingers to a snapping turtle. How do you handle them now? So I'm going to give you some tips on handling, all the way from the babies like this guy to the big adults like this one. Let's start simple and small. The hatchlings, like these adorable ones up here. Who doesn't love a baby turtle? And baby snapping turtles, they're as easy to handle as any baby turtle. They're terrified of you because you're a big giant predator and they think you're going to eat them. So for handling a baby snapping turtle, you can pretty much pick them up any which way. They will rarely bite, and if they do, they usually don't have a big enough mouth to get a good grip on you and tear off skin, and they don't have the power in their jaws either. So for the most part, hatchlings are very easy to handle, and you can, if you see one, you can just pick it up and carry it around for the most part. I always would say to be a little careful and wash your hands afterwards, and try not to flip the turtle too much because it could do some internal damage. But for the most part, hatchlings are incredibly easy to handle. So now that you guys know how to handle the small ones, what happens if you find something just a little bit bigger? Let's say a medium snapping turtle like one of these two. So these guys are a little more dangerous. While they most likely wouldn't be able to take off a finger, they can still give you a not so fun bite. So the best way to handle a medium-sized snapping turtle is to put your hand in between the back legs. So you go from the bottom up, you have the tail in between these fingers, and you have the legs on the outside of these. So then you lift the turtle from underneath up like that, and then he cannot bite you. They may try, but from that positioning, they cannot grab you with their mouth. So that is a very good way to handle a medium-sized snapper turtle. You can also handle them in a net, which is recommended for that size because they can still fit in most nets, unlike the giant ones. So you could scoop them up, have them in the net, and then on land, it's a lot easier to maneuver them and get them in that position where you can lift them up from behind. So, as I said, while a medium snapping turtle isn't as dangerous, they still are dangerous, and you want to reduce the risk of a bite as much as possible. So pick them up, go behind them, put the tail in between these two fingers, and the legs on the outside of these, and then scoop up like that, and have your thumb above on top, so you have the extra control of the turtle, and you can lift it up, move it, take pictures, whatever you want to do. And for a medium snapping turtle, I'm talking about anywhere from 3 to 6 inches, maybe even up to 8 inches. Anything bigger than that, and then it gets to the next scenario, which I'll talk about right now. So now let's talk about the large snapping turtles. These guys are a whole nother story. There are 3 main ways that you can handle a large snapping turtle. And for a large snapping turtle, I consider anything from 1.5 feet to 3 feet. They get pretty big and pretty heavy. An adult snapping turtle weighs up to 75 pounds at its heaviest. Most weigh only like 50 or so, 30 to 50. So, but that's still a pretty heavy turtle. So I'll start talking about the 3 ways you can handle a snapping turtle. So the first of the ways you can handle a large snapping turtle is to put your 2 hands in the handles above the legs. Now, while that may sound confusing, if you look at the back of a snapping turtle, their shells aren't as protective as, let's say, a box turtle or a red-eared slider. They have a big gap beneath the top shell, the bottom shell, and a big opening in the legs. So you can pretty easily put your hands above the back legs, but below the top of the shell. So you'll slide it in, and then you can grab it from there. Your thumbs on the top, your hands underneath, and you can lift it up like that. So that is a very good way to hold a snapping turtle with its pros and cons. So let's start with the pros. It gives you a very good handle, and you have very good control of where the head of that turtle is facing. And it also helps you distribute weight a lot better, because a 30-pound turtle, you might want to use both hands to carry one of those. But a big con with that method is that your hands get torn to shreds. The claws of the turtle can still reach you for the most part, so they'll be scraping at your hands, tearing off skin, scraping you up, which isn't the most fun. So if you don't like getting your hands scraped, let's move on to the second way to handle them. So now we're moving on to the second way to handle snapping turtles. But before I talk about that, I want to say this one warning. Do not, I repeat, do not handle a snapping turtle only by the tail. And by that, I mean do not grab it by its tail and lift it up out of the water. That is very dangerous for the turtle, as its spine is connected to its tail, and you might paralyze the turtle. The second way to handle a snapping turtle is not the same as the first in really any way. So you start by grabbing it by the tail, but you do not lift the turtle by the tail. Very important, as I just said, you do not lift the turtle by the tail. Instead, you just gently raise the back, so you raise the back using the tail, so you can slide your other hand in underneath and lift the turtle up that way. So here you'll have your hand underneath the carapace or the underside of the shell of the turtle, and your other hand will be holding onto the tail, keeping the turtle in place, making sure it doesn't tip off from one side to the other, and giving control of where the turtle is facing. So a big pro about this one is it's a lot harder for the turtle to cut your arm. Being here, it can't really reach your arm down here, so you get a lot less cuts. Another pro is that you have full control again, so you can face the turtle any which way you want. But a big con with this one is the fact that you're only holding it with one hand. So it's a lot more weight on this one arm. So if you're not the strongest, it might be a little difficult. And even if you are pretty strong, this is still a 30+ pound turtle at that size. So now the third main way to hold a common snapping turtle is kind of almost like an upgrade of how you hold the medium one. So you start off with the same method as you did for the second, where you lift up the tail and slide one arm underneath. But this time with your other hand, you also slide it underneath. So if, like in the little one, how you had the tail in between your fingers and then these other fingers on the outside of on the inside of the back legs, I mean. Here you have your entire arms on the inside of the back legs and hold it up like that. So this is a lot better way, and while you don't have as much control, you still do have two hands to help balance the turtle. You don't get as cut as often as the second one's big pro is, and it's also a big weight distributor. So instead of having all this 30-pound weight on this one hand, instead you now have it on two hands, which makes it a lot easier. And here's a clip of me holding a snapping turtle. Because he can reach pretty far with that mouth. He can reach to about, I would say, give him a foot berth every way of that head. But you go behind the tail, lift the tail up, get your hand underneath, as you can see here with this hand. And then if you need to, you can get a second hand underneath, or keep your one hand on the tail and lift him up, just like this. So now this turtle, I am holding him and he cannot bite. His claws can still scratch me, but they're not as bad as when you put them in the leg areas. You can also go from the back of the shell and go underneath right over here. But at this point he can scratch you. But anyhow, so that's all I gotta say about the common snapping turtle. If you happen to like this video, please do hit the like button, the subscribe button if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have anything you want to say. So, thank you for watching, and tell me how you like this video in the comment section. This is the first of this series, and I wonder if you guys have any improvements for me. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll catch you on the next one.